Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on the OV Digital's YouTube channel. Today, I'm gonna try my best to go over the absolute beginner basics of Blender. I've been asked so many times to do a beginner Blender video, and the only struggle I have is there's so much to cover. So, I don't know what to keep in a video and what to get rid of. But today, I'm gonna be focusing on the absolute beginner basics, like you've never opened this program before. I'ma help you build your first model. To help you see what key I've pressed, I have turned on my screencast add-in. So, when you first open it up, you're gonna get greeted with this screen. You're gonna see a cube and that's about it. And then this little outline on it, which means it's selected. I want to go over how to move in Blender because it is a bit different. First things first, guys, your middle mouse wheel, okay? Your little scrolly thing is how you zoom in and out. And then pressing in the middle scroll wheel, you can rotate around an object by holding in the middle scroll wheel on your mouse and moving your mouse around. You can rotate around the object very, very nicely. Now, if you hold Shift and hold in your middle mouse wheel, you're now scrolling away from it. So, this is like good in case you want to, like, I don't know, say your object was long. You can hold Shift and your middle mouse wheel and kind of scroll through to see everything. So, that right there is pretty much all movement is in Blender, just mouse wheel and mouse, that's it. So, to fly around, you can press Shift and F, and that'll put you in this Freecam mode. And then you can use WASD to kind of go around wherever you want to look into it. I don't really use this that much. I used to use it a lot when I was starting out. That's the only reason I'm mentioning it, because it might help some people. But after you get down the actual, mechanics of moving, I don't think you'll really be using that too much. It's so much easier and faster to just kind of whip around like this. Now in Blender, there's something called orthographic views. I think that's how you say it. And if you have a number pad on your keyboard, if you press 1, you'll flip straight to this front orthographic. If you press 3, you'll go to the right, 7 is the top, and 9 is the bottom. So, that's kind of how you use those. If you do not have a number pad on your keyboard, you can hold Alt and your middle mouse wheel down and kind of scroll over. So, right now we're on the right. If we scroll over this way, we're on the front. If we do it again, left back. If you go like this, top and bottom. So, if you use Alt and press down your middle mouse wheel, you're going to be all good to go, and you don't need a number pad. So, I think that is everything for the movement side of things in Blender. I kind of stumbled my words, but it's all good. I'm trying out here. Up next, we're gonna go into the modes. The only two modes you really need to know as a beginner is Edit mode and Object mode. Right now, we're in Object mode, and we can do things like scale this if we want to. That's about it though. If you press Tab on your keyboard, you're going to go into something called Edit mode. Now, as you can see, all the vertices, which are these points here, are like a bit darker of an orange, which means those are highlighted. You have 3 selection modes you can use in Blender. There's Vertices mode, which we're on right now. Line Select mode, which as you can see, it selects the lines, or Face Select mode, which is probably the most used one by most people unless you're doing a very, very detailed model. Now with that being said, we're going to be in this Face Select mode, and there's really only a couple of hotkeys that you're going to want to know. And really, there's only a couple that you're going to use overall in Blender for most of your objects. The first one, and arguably the most important one in Blender, is E. If you press E, it's going to extrude your object, giving you more of that object to work with. So now instead of having only the one face, I can, grab these and move them how I want. So, extruding is probably the most used one, and then S is the second for scale. So if you press S and then just move your mouse, you can scale. Now you can team these up as well. So if you press E and then S, now you are scaling the extruded piece. So, you're not scaling the normal face. You've extruded it. Alright, so those are the main two hotkeys. There are a couple more that I'm going to go ahead and go over though. Let me go ahead and just mess this up a little bit so it's not a perfect cube. So, this will look a lot more demonstrable. There we go. We have R, which is rotate, and it's as simple as it sounds. Now, if you're looking at this, like, in a weird angle, your rotate is going to be on a weird axis. But if you press R and then your direction, so right up here you could see Z would move it up and down. So R and then Z, we're gonna move on this axis. Alright, and I use this little thing all the time because I always get confused, like, oh, what button am I supposed to click? What way is what way kind of a deal. So R and then any axis is how you're going to rotate along that axis, and you can do that with anything as well. If I wanted to, for example, extrude this, but I only wanted to extrude it on the x-axis, I could put E and then X. And now, as you can see, it's locked on the x-axis. And you could do that with anything. If you want to scale and then press X, it's only going to scale on the x-axis. S and then Y, it's only going to scale on the y-axis. This is going to be very helpful later on. Another very widely used one, but I don't use it that much, apparently a lot of people do, is going to be G. If you press G on your keyboard, it's going to grab. So you can kind of just move it wherever you want to move it. And then, of course, if you want to lock it on an axis, you could press G and then whatever axis you want to lock it on. Now, this last one that nobody really uses, but I do think it's important. Once I figured out about this, I was like, wow, that is a game changer, and I don't know if it overly needs to be included in a super beginner tutorial, but it was awesome when I found it out. So I want to share it with you guys, and it's this guy right up here, Proportional Editing. So you can just click on the button or you can press O on your keyboard. And what this does is it pairs up with, for example, scale or grab. If we were to press G, we have this little circle, and we can use the scroll wheel to affect how much it's grabbing. So, as you can see, we have this, but if we scroll in on our mouse wheel, it's not going to be grabbing as much. So, this is very cool. Like, for example, if you made a whole tree, you can grab the top point of that tree and then add a curve to it at the end. Just something I thought was amazing. Might definitely be confusing to new modelers. And last but not least, guys, to sum up this whole little beginner tutorial, and I know there wasn't anything insane, like I said, this is for the absolute beginner basics. How to spawn in objects, because a lot of times you're not going to want to model with just a cube. So, we can go ahead and delete this guy, press Shift and then A, and you're going to get this little pop-up right here. Now, mesh right here is most of the time what you're going to be using, and you want to pick whatever resembles what you're trying to make the most. So, if you were making a tree, you'd probably go with a cylinder, and then you could go through back into edit mode and use all the tricks we already learned for, like extruding, scaling, all that kind of stuff. If you wanted to add leaves to the tree, you would want to use like an icosphere for low poly, and then edit it however you would like it to be. But Shift+A is how you add in new meshes. I think that's going to wrap it up for the very basics of Blender tutorial. This tutorial caters explicitly to those taking their first steps in Blender. If you found value in this tutorial and crave more advanced insights, express your interest in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Wishing you a splendid day ahead. Until next time.